Do you remember the last time you bought a game secondhand? I buy just about everything digitally these days, so I honestly don't remember the last time it was for me. But whenever I think about playing a secondhand game, the one that comes to mind is Ocarina of Time. I remember my parents bought it for me from a pawn shop just by chance, and they had no way of knowing that they had just bought me one of the most iconic video games of all time. But because it was secondhand, it had the markings of the previous owner. It had save files. Still there. My brother and I both deleted one for each of us, but we always kept the third file intact, and this file was in the end game. I'd boot it up every now and again and be instantly overwhelmed. They were in the final dungeon. Their inventory was filled with items I had no idea how to use, and was that a blue tunic? How did they get that? I only ever beat Ocarina of Time much later as an adult because the Shadow Temple was both too scary and too confusing for me as a kid, but I remember a few times I would boot up that third save file and travel back to the Shadow Temple to try and somehow reverse engineer the solutions I was looking for. It was all I had. Our copy didn't even come with a box, much less a manual. But a manual is all Tunic gives you, and not even the whole thing. You find it piece by piece, page by page. But you soon realize that it's not just the manual. This has the markings of the previous owner too. Someone's already played this game, solved these puzzles. Everyone that plays Tunic is playing a secondhand copy. Now, my favorite game of all time is Shadow of the Colossus. I love so many things about it. The atmosphere, the sense of scale and mystery, the fairy tale-like story, but I wouldn't like the game nearly as much as I do had I kept my love for it to myself. Shadow of the Colossus is a game that was meant to be shared. Back in the PS2 days, there was no game more mysterious than Shadow of the Colossus. It's a game that is oddly easy to get out of bounds in, and some incredibly dedicated secret seekers would do some truly impressive boundary breaks and share them with the community. The existence of a 17th Colossus was both meme and myth, but the community around the game knew that there had to be one. There had to be. There never was, but the pages upon pages of forum posts of people searching for it is proof that they had a hell of a good time looking for it. Me? I never got too much into secret seeking, but two of my good friends and I did get into speedrunning the game for a time. And again, feeling myself getting better at the game and breaking my own records was fun as hell, but seeing my friends enjoy my lifelong favorite game alongside me...
Oh, never mind, we got it. Wow!
As we all slowly learn new tricks and swap tips, is a memory I wouldn't trade for anything. What's funny is that Shadow of the Colossus was originally conceived as a 4-player game, not too unlike Monster Hunter, and in a way, they still ended up making one of my favorite multiplayer games of all time. I played through Tunic almost entirely live on Twitch with an audience of mostly newcomers and a few experienced veterans doing their best not to give any too obvious hints. People in my chat were writing down notes and swapping ideas about how to solve puzzles in the game as I took pictures of my screen with my phone and madly scribbled on them trying to make some sense of things. Or I'd return to the manual and flip back and forth between the pages, desperate for any kind of foothold. But when we finally cracked a puzzle, we lost our minds. This felt like a perfect simulation when you're a kid, playing a game that's just a little too hard for you. But you have a friend sitting next to you on the living room floor, with a strategy guide open, reading passages out loud as you play. But the strategy guide is poorly laid out, and it doesn't quite properly explain what you need to do, so the guide almost becomes an obstacle in and of itself. I remember doing this for The Wind Waker. I remember doing this for Twilight Princess. I'm gonna remember doing this, or something like it, for Tunic. In one of the game's optional endings, my interpretation is that you actually meet the person that's done all the scribbling in your manual. And there's this realization that you've been playing together this whole time. You wouldn't have gone to the end without them, and they got to see you put all their little hints together when the puzzles were making you pull your hair out. Sometimes, they were all you had. The joy of showing someone a game you love, and then watching them master it and fall in love with it, is unmatched. Sometimes, we're lucky enough to pass a game on to a friend, a sibling, a partner, and when this happens, we get to live the game all over again. If you haven't played Tunic, this is me urging you to do so. Because even if you're playing it by yourself, you won't be alone. I promise.